All right, hi guys. We've got myself here and Hal Varian, Nick Schulz. Hal, can I bring up something from almost 15 years ago? Your
I don't
book,
know if I can remember that far back.
what?
Uh-oh.
The
All right.
the book Information Rules. Okay.
Yes.
You
I have mine
asserted
here.
at that time that um, that the principles of economics are timeless, and so they continue to apply even with information goods. And so an example of an issue that's raised is I don't know, is that book available on Kindle? I didn't even check, but
I believe it is. I think all of Harvard Business School Press's books are available on Kindle.
okay. So if the cost of printing on the Kindle is zero and the cost of distribution is zero, what's the right price for the book?
Well, I mean, in all of our textbooks, we say let's look at a monopolist. For simplicity, we'll say there's constant marginal cost, could be zero, and you're just pricing based on demand curve. So I would say the right price for the book on the Kindle, my view would be somewhere in the $10 range, $10, $14, $9, whatever.
And you're just
$79.99.
Yes,
so you're just going to base that all on elasticity of demand.
absolutely.
Um, and
And of course, as you know, in the book, I did argue that you could version the information good. There could be a high price when it comes out, a lower price later on, like DVDs. There could be different media. There could be different qualities of the good, meaning different features that the electronic book might have, and so on.
well, I have another model which is that I want to suggest. What about bundling? What if you were to bundle it? Like, for example, with Amazon Prime, there's I think they bundle a whole bunch of books into kind of a library that you can get.
Yeah, the bundling is a fine idea, or subscription pricing. One idea that I find attractive is the model that Kickstarter is using, where people are contributing ex ante, and if you reach a threshold, the project is undertaken. So that's sometimes called micro patronage.
Uh-huh.
I think of it as a subscription model because if you subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, then you're paying in advance for an information good that's going to be delivered in the future. So you could do the same thing with a book. I could say we're going to write Information Rules edition 2, and if we raise whatever $50,000, we'll write the book.
Are you announcing that you're doing that, Hal?
I'm not announcing that specific project, but I am supporting some projects like that because I think they're quite nice. It's a nice model for information goods.
So, what's an example of something you're supporting by that you've
So
done?
there's a project for producing economic infographics that I like. Let's see. I'll give you the details. In a second here. And I'll get the name of it in a minute. But it's something where, it's kind of no risk. If you want this to be produced, you say, I'll contribute whatever, $10. And then if it isn't produced, your $10 comes back. If it is produced, then the work is made available to everyone.
So the idea is the amount raised has to reach a certain threshold before they actually take the money.
Right, and this is a traditional model. Bagnoli and Lippmann have an article in the Journal of Economic Theory about it, because if you look at a model where everybody is contributing and the sum of the contributions just equal the cost of production, Well, that's a Nash equilibrium because anybody who stops contributing then is pivotal. So the good doesn't get produced. Problem is there are lots of Nash equilibria in that model,
Right.
but it is a mechanism that produces public goods, and you know it's a particular game some of whose outcomes are efficient.
Well, that's sounds like what I'd like for all public goods. Let's do that for make have every government have to raise money by subscription model, and if you don't get it, you don't get to be the government.
Yeah, could be.
So,
Well, I'm not coming up with this. I'm not coming up
all
with
right.
the
Well, if you can email
title I
later,
wanted.
we can add something to it to show where it is. Any other projects come to mind that you that
Any other projects? Well, we're still working on this using Google search data for short-term economic forecasting. So, for example, if you go look at Google Correlate and you feed in initial claims for unemployment benefits, it turns out the search term that's most highly correlated with that is file for unemployment. So if you regress the initial claims on last week's initial claims plus file for unemployment, you do get an improved prediction of the initial claims for unemployment insurance. So it's a kind of nice way to add in some extra predictors into your forecasting.
No, but just as a technical note, that there would seem to be a ton of seasonality in that stuff. So just being able to control for
So
that would be hard.
that's an excellent point. When I said feed in the initial claims, we would want to feed in the initial claims non-seasonally adjusted because the data from Google is the raw data. But what we can do internally is we can take that same data and run it through seasonal adjustment, so you regress a seasonally adjusted series and a seasonally adjusted series. So there's various choices you could make, and there is a substantial difference. For example, if you feed in retail sales, so you just feed in retail sales from the Census Bureau, it turns out the terms that are most highly correlated with that are all shopping malls. So you basically get the top 30 or 40 shopping malls around the country.
And that helps predict retail sales,
Uh,
or it just correlates.
yes, in the sense that but it is relevant to the point you made earlier. If you just look at the seasonally unadjusted data, what you're just picking up is a Christmas effect because people are searching for the malls around Christmas and retail sales non-seasonally adjusted go up around Christmas. If you take the seasonally adjusted data and you ask what the best predictors are, it turns out to be coupons and rebates. Because during the recession, what happened was there was a huge surge in price-sensitive terms. Coupons, rebates, sales, discounts, percent off, free shipping. All of those terms shot up when the recession started taking hold.
So that's what the buyers want. So that's not just a supply effect. That's not just stores offering more coupons. You think that's what
I think
consumers are
there's a
looking for.
feedback, right? If consumers want discount prices, they want sales, they want coupons, then the stores will offer them.
Okay, so
That's what it took to make them buy.
has the searching for coupons gone down in recent weeks? Is the economy recovering?
It's dropped down a little bit, but the one confounding factor is Groupon.
Okay.
As Groupon comes in, and the coupon searches go back up again. But if you look at free shipping is not contaminated by that effect. So it went way up during the recession and then has come down subsequently.
Really? So people in a non-recession are willing to pay for shipping?
Pardon me?
People, if they're not feeling they're in a recession, they're more willing to pay for shipping?
Yep. I mean, or I think it'd be better to phrase it the other way. If they're really feeling squeezed, then they are going to look for every penny they could save on shipping or whatever.
Hal, what would you look for? What would you search for to try to determine if the good data that we've gotten recently is real and we're on in a sustained recovery or not? So not just looking at say fewer people looking for free shipping, but what would be some positive terms you would be looking for?
So if you believe, one thing that works actually quite well is consumer confidence. Now, there are a couple things that are highly correlated with consumer confidence that are well known. For example, gasoline prices tend to be quite correlated with consumer confidence. When you look at the Google data, the predictors that are chosen in our model end up being things like hybrid and alternative vehicles. When gas prices are high, people are searching for hybrid vehicles. When gas prices are low, they're searching for SUVs. And so actually the automobile searches are predictive of consumer confidence. Another thing that shows up, and this is kind of nice for this group, is that one good predictor of consumer confidence is searches on economics. And of course, it's a negative predictor. The worse the economy, the more people search for economic topics. So it really is the dismal science.
And what is that data telling us about what's been going on in January and February?
Well, I think what's happened there is we do have. I haven't, to tell the truth, I have not looked at the most recent numbers, but we do have this very strange situation going on where the U.S. seems to be improving and Europe seems to be going the other direction. So you're probably seeing an interaction effect. If you're searching for economics in Greece, that's probably a negative side. If you're searching for economics in the U.S., that might be a bit of a positive side.
All right.
You know, there's always this problem with time series. There's only one history, and factors that could have been quite important in the past are not necessarily important at the moment. By the way, that showed up in consumer confidence too, because consumer confidence took a huge plunge last August, and most observers think it had nothing to do with the economic conditions, but everything to do with the budget debate in Congress.
Hmm.
That I think was depressing, no matter how you look at it.
Wow.
Hal, do you have a good sense of who, obviously besides you and people inside of Google, are using Google Correlate to find interesting linkages in whether it's in the economy or anywhere else?
So the Correlate is only mildly useful at the moment because of the seasonality effect that Arnold mentioned. It's looking at unadjusted data, so you can only go so far with that. If you look at the Google Search Insights, which is showing you the time series of Google queries or verticals, the Bank of Israel, the Central European Bank, the Bank of Italy, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and the Bank of England have all produced research reports where they've used this data for mostly unemployment-related topics. So things that have to do with job search behavior, obviously people going to the internet, and it's been pretty, you don't want to overhype this because what you'll tend to get is about a 5% to 10% improvement in out-of-sample forecasts. So just if you do a rolling window forecast where you estimate up to time t and then forecast the next month and then repeat, you can do 5 to 10% better by using those Google predictors. So it's not huge, but it's not negligible either.
Well, 5 to 10% can be pretty good. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but folks in say the public health space have been using this, right, to try to search terms on, for cold medicines or coughs or I have a rash and
right. So we have Google flu trends. That's a little bit misunderstood. The goal of flu trends is not to predict the yearly flu pattern, which is actually quite predictable because it's so seasonal, but to try to predict epidemics. So every now and then you'll have a flu season where the flu virus mutates between the vaccine development and the season hitting. and then you would get a substantial spike. If you knew about those spikes 2 weeks in advance or even 10 days in advance, you could save a lot of lives. So the real goal is not the year to year predictability, but rather the finding these particular spikes in flu activity.
All right. Let me switch topics. Let me ask you sort of what you think will happen with this sort of video conferencing stuff in general, because you were the one who turned me on to this approach, and what I've noticed is that most of the people we ask to participate in these things say, "I need to get my tech guy to help."
I
Or
know.
or I'll have my research assistant set me up with that. It kind of reminds me of the 1990s. Remember when corporations first got the internet and what
It's
they
when you said I have to get my secretary to print out my emails.
exactly. And remember that stage ended pretty quickly. Do you think that this stage on video conferencing will end reasonably quickly?
Yeah, I think so. I'm always getting asked to fly to Boston or New York or Washington, and that blows 2 days essentially, or at least a day. And I said, look, I'll come in by video conference. And I get exactly the remark that you just made. Well, I have to get the tech guys to set that up. And I say, no, no, just click here. And it works. So I think people have not really appreciated this technology yet. And when they do, you will see a significant improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of, even if you don't even count out of town, but if you look at the typical day that a lot of high officials in Washington spend, they get in the taxi, they go through the security at the building, they wait in the antechamber, and they could just sit and click all day, and they could do, they could do 8 meetings instead of 3.
Well, absolutely. I mean, what happens is you can here we have buildings that are, I don't know, takes 5 minutes to walk from one to another in some cases, and we'll just have a video conference for a quick meeting.
Really?
So at Google, we have conference rooms in every, many conference rooms in every building. They all are video equipped with a great big screen, and then also, of course, everybody has a workstation on their desk where you can just conference from your desk. So it's very widely used here.
Okay. So,
And I've talked to people in Israel, Europe, Japan, New York, all over the place.
and shouldn't that change education also to sort of, why be limited to the courses you can take at Berkeley or Harvard if you can just sort of drop into in some sense, to the classroom somewhere else?
Well, absolutely. Did you take Peter Norvik's course on the on machine learning?
No, I didn't. I encouraged a couple of my students to try it. I don't think they did, but that was pretty. But it was impressive. What, 58,000 people ended up taking it, or something like that?
Yeah, it was incredible.
And now didn't and then Thrun left Stanford. What did you think of that?
Pardon me?
That
Oh, straw. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he started Udacity, or however you pronounce it. They just
That's right.
started the
Yes.
class a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, of course, he's also at Google, so he's got a position at Google and his own company. So he's fairly well covered, I think.
okay? So, but it's interesting. He's willing to do education based on his personal brand and leave Stanford behind. That doesn't even use this sort of conferencing technology so much. That has to use other stuff.
Right. I mean, they're using much more the Khan Academy model of the live Blackboard,
Uh-huh.
but I think we'll see a lot of technological advance there as well.
All right. And another thing I think you're known for, and this maybe goes back to a little bit what we were talking about with the Google Trends or Google Insights or whatever. I can't keep track of all your names. Just sort of big data in general. I have a quote that I actually show my statistics students. Let's see if I can get to it here. Get me a second. But it was from an interview in Freakonomics. And
Yes.
he said, so if you are looking for a career where your services will be in high demand, you should find something where you provide a scarce complementary service to something that's getting ubiquitous and cheap. What's getting ubiquitous and cheap? Data. And what is complementary to data? Analysis. So my recommendation is to take lots of courses about how to manipulate and analyze data. Databases, machine learning, econometrics, statistics, visualization. I assume you stick with that recommendation?
Absolutely. In fact, I was just talking to the one of the faculty members at the Stanford Statistics Department who was telling me their enrollments, their applications are shooting through the roof. And one thing that they're getting is a lot of people in quantitative subjects, whether it's economics or operations research or mathematics, are coming over to the stat department to take the stat courses because they think it will improve their employment prospects, which I'm sure is true.
Well, it's good that that's happening at Stanford. We had Alex Tabarrok on talking, and he was saying that if you look over long periods of time, the levels of enrollment in statistics are flat. That over like 20 years. So
well, I think it's definitely, there's no question that it's happening at Stanford and at Berkeley as well. So the West Coast is perhaps a leader in this case.
Or maybe the leading institutions are leaders in this case.
Yeah.
So what do you think do you foresee anything particular that's going to come out of this sort of big data movement? Do you think it'll be mostly helping in health, in economics?
Well, I'll tell you about one thing, and I have to mention I'm an investor in this company called Kaggle. Are you familiar with Kaggle?
No.
So one of the problems with some area of expertise like statistics or data science is some parties may have a lot of data and other parties may have a lot of expertise. So of course the value comes in connecting the people with the data to the people with the expertise. And there are many, many graduate students who have fantastic command of the techniques but don't have the interesting data to work on. There's lots of people who are beginning to realize they've got these data warehouses, but they don't have the internal expertise. What Kaggle is doing is connecting the data science people with the data, and the way they do it...
How does it do that? Yeah.
Well, the way they do it is they use the Netflix challenge model. So a organization will say, here's 10 million records of patients, hospital patients, come up with the best model for predicting which of those patients will be readmitted within 6 months. So that's an actual example. They just awarded a $50,000 prize at a meeting I was at yesterday. There are many other examples of that sort, where there be organizations that have data, they have a question, what they lack is the expertise, and they will structure this as, excuse me, they'll structure it as a competition, just like the Netflix challenge. And it's been really quite successful. It's a really nice model.
So
Hal, that makes me want to ask you a question. You know there's been a debate over the last 6 months or so on this question of whether or not we are in a sort of innovation slowdown.
Yes.
This is an argument that Tyler Cowen and Peter Thiel and some others have been advancing. Obviously, you look at this from a very particular vantage point, but what is your sense of what's going on, not just short term or with individual anecdotal examples? Obviously, there's interesting stuff, but in bigger picture, do you think that innovation is slowing down, or we ain't seen nothing yet?
Well, I would agree with Tyler that we did see a very rapid period of innovation in the 20th century. My grandfather once told me, when I was born, everybody got around with horses and buggies, and I lived to see men walk on the moon. So it is quite remarkable. If you look at that period from basically 1900 to 1970, the kind of innovation that occurred during that period was really quite remarkable. So the question is, it's one thing to be low relative to that. It's another thing to be low relative to historical norms. And I would say we aren't at a low period of innovation with respect to historical norms at all. So remember in the movie 2001, uh, everybody was traveling to space, but computers were gigantic. And now computers are small. We aren't traveling to space so much, so the innovation has taken a different movement. How different is Siri than Hal, Hal the computer in 2001? They're getting to be the same sort of creature. I would say there's still a huge amount of innovation going on in the internet, and the next wave that we're going to see is robotics. Because robotics is something out of science fiction.
Yeah, there's the
Remember, it used to be that electric motors were big, and that gave you some productivity enhancement, and then they became small, and you got a huge burst in productivity enhancement. That's the Paul David story. Used to be computers were big, mainframe computers. That gave us some productivity enhancement, and computers got small, and we saw a big surge because of that. Well, now with robots, there are a lot of big robots out there. You go to any factory, it's filled with robots, essentially. But they're all these big, huge, special purpose machines. As robots get small and become general purpose, then we'll have a big burst of productivity connected with that.
and yeah, actually, there's I guess the hot TED talk. I guess the TED conference is going on now, or was going on the last few days. Was a guy showing small helicopter robots. Have you seen that one yet?
Well, I did see a presentation about it. These are drones, and the drones are now, of course, they relaxed the legal restrictions in the U.S. So I anticipate that we'll see a lot more drones. Also, I think the two areas that are ripe for innovation are one, the self-driving car. So California just announced they were going to change some laws to try to make self-driving cars available. And I took a ride in the Google self-driving car a couple months ago. It's really a fantastic experience. That's a $1 trillion impact on the economy when you think about it. Your car is sitting idle for 23 out of 24 hours a day, and you could dramatically increase capital utilization by having self-driving cars.
So your vision
The
is
other
that
thing that
people would hitch a ride on a self-driving car rather than own a car?
Well, I think it would be, you mentioned Washington. Of course, it's quite convenient in Washington to flag down a taxi on the street, quite convenient in New York, but there's very few cities where you can do that. But I think that with self-driving cars, you could do that everywhere. And whether it's an organization that owns them, like a taxi company, or whether it's individuals that own them, I think that's let the market decide. I don't have any strong opinions on that. But the other thing that I think is very, very important, it would be robotic surgery. So there, if you look at modern surgery, you've got somebody manipulating these arms with a laparoscopic surgery. They've got a video of the organ, and the human is the middleman, taking the video data and then turning it into this mechanical operation. But there's no reason why the human's role could be reduced dramatically.
So you're saying, in some sense, laparoscopic surgery is already robotic.
It's already robotic. It's just, it's like the pilot in the airplane. The pilot is doing some things, but mostly he's looking over, supervising the robotic operation.
All right. Nick, do you have any other questions you wanted to throw at him?
I guess just on this one last point, there is this other wrinkle of this overall sort of innovation debate about the race between what's the MIT guys, Arnold, they're
Eric Brynjolfsson. Yeah, I just saw Eric a few days ago.
Yeah. What do you when I think about self-driving cars? I think about well, there go 150,000 trucker jobs, and I think about no more laparoscopic surgeons and all these wonderful things. What do you make of their argument?
Well, my line is that everybody wants more jobs and less work. And it is so bizarre to hear people launch into this jobs versus work pace. I think that really uh, this increased productivity will lead to less labor, meaning unpleasant tasks. And of course, there'll be a huge demand for entertainment and ways for people to fill their time. We've seen that over the last 100 years. I'm sure we're going to see it over the next 100 years.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks a lot. I think
All
we'll
right.
close it
Bye
off.
bye.
Okay.
Thanks, Al.
Yep.
Yeah.